Hello, I'm Christine Meinders, creator of Poieto, but nothing is truly ever created by one person. Poieto was informed by communities in Los Angeles, California, and around the world. Poieto now consists of a team of talented developers, designers, technologists, and researchers.
Hi, my name is Sara Sithi-Amnuai. I'm a performer, composer, and creative technologist based in Los Angeles, and also part of the Feminist.AI community as well as the Poieto community. I've been a part of a lot of different communities in California, and specifically in Southern California. I've been a part of a lot of bands and groups, as well as some of the most exciting work has been in Little Tokyo in downtown Los Angeles with an organization called Sustainable Little Tokyo, as well as in groups like the Pan-African People's Group based in South Los Angeles.
We're here to introduce the socio-tech design tool, Poieto. So to give you a little bit of information about Poieto, different pieces of Poieto have been in development since 2016. Poieto honors multiple entry points for making, from idea generation to prototyping to final projects. Projects including things like products, experiences, art, and activism. It can be used with developers, artists, designers, people with technical and people with no technical experience. It was inspired by critical feminist theory and critical making. Poieto acknowledges and honors the work of Dr. Allison Adam, Dr. Sarah Ahmed, Dr. Sophia Noble, and Dr. Rebecca Feebrink, specifically her tool Wekinator, which was very inspirational for Poieto. Poieto, similar to Wekinator, can be integrated with creative coding software and community-created concepts and ideas. Poieto can be used with product development tools as well. Poieto is inspired by sympoiesis, meaning collective creation and ethos, using art, including music, to influence behaviors and the character of the community. Poieto is about creating a space for communities and individuals to design their own projects. Today, Sarah is going to share her glove interface NAMI, which was recently presented at the 2020 NAMI conference, New Interfaces for Musical Expression, for those of you who aren't aware of NAMI. Sarah presented her paper titled Exploring Identity Through Design, a focus on the cultural body via NAMI. This is one of the most beautifully written papers exploring identity, embodiment, and community from a critical artist and technologist perspective. This is the very first video series introducing Poieto, and I can't think of a better person to come and share their work and talk about their practice. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Christine, for having me here and for also your very kind words. I'm so excited to be here to present some of my findings and development of NAMI, a custom glove interface I designed for live electroacoustic musical performance, improvisation, and a tool to extend my own cultural body, and how Poieto was key in the development of this interface. In this introductory episode, I'll provide you an overview and walkthrough of Poieto. Using NAMI as a case study, I'll show you some possibilities developed through the Poieto framework, and we'll lastly highlight some other cool creative projects that were created using Poieto. I hope this sparks ideas for you to build something with Poieto, and we welcome you to share your projects with us and our community too. Poieto, otherwise known as the Cultural AI Design Tool, is an exploratory research and design tool that utilizes socio-cultural context to inform the design of artificial intelligence and machine learning interfaces. It focuses on the idea of problem framing rather than simply problem solving. places equal emphasis on social and technical parts of the design process, and encourages community-driven participatory design. It does this by incorporating social and cultural considerations, or in other words, exploratory and not prescriptive lenses, and through slow tech, consensual data collection, software integration, local and cloud-based ML, and community-centered tech. If you think about the many art forms that exist and their respective making process, Poieto reflects practices and natural considerations familiar across disciplines. For example, actors are constantly interpreting their lines from several perspectives or lenses to understand their character. Writers often understand their story based on a variety of imagined characters' points of views. And similarly, composers consider their musicians' point of view, often consulting them to improve their score. As stated earlier, Poieto was developed by Christine Meinders and inspired by the Feminist AI design philosophy. The Feminist AI design philosophy was inspired by feminist research, community works, and the work of Rebecca Febrink, Alison Adam, Sarah Ahmed, Catherine Hales, Sophia Noble, and Joy Buolamwini. I want to highlight 3 key tenets of the Feminist AI design philosophy. They are the following. 1. Design with and for unheard voices in AI creation. 2. We must be invited to a location to participate. And 3. All knowledge systems and skills are equally honored and valued. For the full list, please check out the Feminist AI website, and we'll also include a link to it at the end of this video. At its core, it's centered on designing collaboratively with and for unheard voices and communities, so co-creating hardware and software products. Here are some examples of projects that came out of Poieto and this design philosophy, and other inspirations that influenced the creation and development of Poieto. These are the goals of Poieto, and I'll show you how each of these goals are integrated into the framework of Poieto through the Poieto wireframes later. But first, let's talk about what we mean by community-centered tech. As artists, designers, technologists, makers, and creatives, we must deeply consider not only what, but how we contribute to our creative communities. We have to consider who uses the tools we create: musical interfaces, game controllers, or any other creative device. The tools we create may be for ourselves, but more often than not, we are not the sole user. And in fact, the tools we create may not draw entirely from our lived experiences. In many instances, designers build products solely on their assumptions of their end users and their requirements, which may or may not speak to the end user's needs. Often this approach is reflected in machine learning systems in which system designers and operators have more power than the users and affected populations. And its process is built upon a top-down approach. This power imbalance can lead to a disconnect between products and their users, and more largely a disconnect and lack of cohesiveness between creators or organizations and their users. Another great result of community-centered tech and a participatory design approach is the protection it affords its users and the trust that can be built through collaboration. It allows users to provide data contributions that they're comfortable sharing. They have an active choice to be a part of the design and to shape the design, and to feed the system it perpetuates, rather than the unfortunate commonplace practice of their data being taken, tracked, or sold without their full knowledge. This is just one part of a movement towards ethical AI practice that's so important. So Poieto is used as a tool to teach individuals and communities not exposed to AI thinking about artificial intelligence, and through a simple, accessible framework, co-build AI products and tools for their communities. And some really exciting work has already been done with organizations like Feminist.AI. Now let's dive into the building blocks of Poieto. Poieto consists of 5 phases. 1. Sketching. 2. Concept. 3. Critical thinking. 4. Reflections. And 5. Implementation. Within each phase, there is a general approach to machine learning. I boiled it down to these 3 components: input, rules and behavior, and form and material.
As you can see, these components are carried across phases, sometimes with some phases including more specific wording, such as training data, or purpose for input, or functionality translating to ML model or intentions. I think of the Poieto framework as the DNA for an AI project or a product, so I created another wireframe to visualize this. This design alludes to the general chromosome shape and is based on a modified Venn diagram to show how each phase overlaps and how they connect and become the building blocks for implementation. During this episode, I'll give you a first-time sequential walkthrough of Poieto in which we start from ground zero with blueprinting and build our way to implementation. However, I do want to emphasize that Poieto does not need to be completed sequentially, and actually, I'd encourage you to go back to phases to iterate and explore further. During the sketching phase, the designer is essentially setting up a blueprint part 1, determining a preliminary input, functionality, and material or form. Here are some considerations you should address during this phase. 1. Can you describe your project? 2. What do you want to do, whether it's creating, exploring, finding patterns, predicting, or any number of actions? 3. Who is this for? 4. How will your user experience or use your project? 5. Who is behind the input? 6. Who created the rules? And 7. What is the form? At this point, you're truly focusing on your purpose by determining why you're doing this, and you might be piecing together how all of the answers to these questions support your purpose. You might also want to identify what system or landscape this project is a part of. Is it related to the social justice system? Is it a part of the gestural language community? You may even consider the relationship between your project and the system it's part of. Are you challenging or affirming a pre-existing structure?